Welcome back to Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. You
Woo!
are joined by me, Michael. We've got Jerome Dowling. Give us a wave, Jerome.
Hello there. That's Star
And
Wars. I've ruined it already.
We've got Dan Moss.
Hello.
Say hello, Dan.
Hello.
Or Daniel Allen, I should say.
Yeah, we don't talk about the other side of that life.
Dowling.
Dowling.
We're here to talk about the Church of Ruby Road, the Doctor Who Christmas special, in all of its singing and dancing glory. But before we do that, Dan, what do you think of the giggle? We missed you last week, Dan.
That's great, Dan. Thanks for that. So going on to the church.
Oh, boys. Pull me both ways. Pull me.
Oh,
pull me off, boy.
Oh.
I haven't got an end to this bit. But,
I didn't know what the hell was happening then.
I mean, all I've just seen
panicked
for the viewers at home is Michael live on a podcast say "pull me off."
Someone clip that, please.
That would
There you go. There's your meme.
It would have given the episode a different spin if he'd have said, "Can you pull me off?" And you. He goes, turns to Catherine Tennant, he goes, "Can you pull me off?" And then turns to Mel and goes, "And you."
It's different this time.
It feels different this time. I'll get your mind out the gutter, Jerome. Give Dan a chance to speak.
Yeah, you
go on, Dan.
I absolutely loved it. Yeah, it didn't disappoint. It had everything. It had the Spice Girls. It had a lot of Jeopardy. I loved the summary with the puppets of all of his previous partners. It's very, very scary. Yeah, I just love the way it's. I mean, when I first watched it, I thought the bioregeneration was a bit of a cop out because it was almost like you're keeping David Tennant alive just in case you need to hit the button again. But actually,
the spin-off button, Dan. This Disney money, that spin-off.
Do you reckon there's going to be a spin-off?
I think the things with the spin-offs, I think they're definitely doing spin-offs. And I think what they're doing is they're creating a true like Marvel Universe thing where you can have different Doctors appear in different spin-offs. I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because I suppose like the Sarah Jane adventures and stuff before, like Matt Smith was in like a proper two-parter, wasn't he? Like I think I'm right. I can't remember what the episode was called. But he was in like a proper two-parter, and obviously Tennant turned up in that as well. And I don't think a Doctor appeared in Torchwood, but there was a lot of references to obviously the hand and stuff. But I don't think a Doctor actually formally appeared in Torchwood. But I guess like it's not a new concept in that sense, is it? And I think Capaldi's done maybe something as well, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was in Torchwood, but not as the Doctor. He was in as do you remember Children of Earth? He played. Was it John Frobisher?
Yes.
Yeah. What a
role. 4, 5, 6 or something.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. God.
Yeah.
I remember that. I need to rewatch that.
I just want to actually follow on from what Dan said, something that I don't think we mentioned last time, Mike. Genuinely, like completely underrated and not something that would be the first picked out of the giggle for obvious reasons. Genuinely love the puppets. That scene with Donna. Where the tiny puppet, like that was I thought they executed that really well, but of course no one's talking about it because so much else happened. But I thought in the brief moment they appeared, they were really good.
So in the 4 episodes of this new era of Doctor Who we've got so far, I think that's where I've noticed the extra budget. Like they've got some practical effects now, which they just, I mean, it's always relied really heavily on practical effects, but they look so good now. Like it's that real kind of like Star Wars-esque like practical effect villain thing. What we were just saying about the spin-offs, I think, because if you think about it from like an actor perspective, I think being in the role of the Doctor is really taxing. So each year it's like, months and months. I mean, it's your whole year basically. So this is why these actors hardly ever stick around for more than 3 to 4 years because they want to do other things. I think the idea of having spin-offs where old Doctors could come back for like a limited series, like 6 episodes, would be a really good way of keeping past Doctors around. And actually, I don't think it undermines the current Doctor.
Yeah, well, I think it justifies the whole creation of the WHOniverse, doesn't it? Because they've really pushed that. You wouldn't just do that for the sake of like reviving older episodes into colour, into high definition, you would do that with a long-term vision. And I think that's what the mapped out with Disney, 100%. No, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I think to see Ncuti Gatwa appear in that final special was, I mean,
we knew it was coming,
we knew it was coming, but not to as great an extent as we saw him, which was fantastic within itself. The fact that he has got his own TARDIS, he's lived happily ever after, it was very much heartwarming. And I think it was a fitting send-off. If we don't see David Tennant again, I think it was a fitting send-off to the 14th Doctor, as well as what our memories of the 10th. So really, really loved it. And very much excited now to see what happens with Ncuti. Now we've watched the Christmas special. What was everyone's first thoughts?
I really liked it. I think there has always been something a bit hokey about Doctor Who Christmas specials, where they are designed to maximize appeal as much as possible, and quite right, because you've got so many more people watching Doctor Who Christmas specials than you do people who watch Doctor Who. I think Voyage of the Damned is the most watched episode of Doctor Who ever. I think it got something like 13 million overnight viewers or whatever. So they're sitting, and rightly so. It's really like, I think Doctor Who specials, Christmas specials, have to be really broad. That's not really how I like my Doctor Who. I'm a bit more of a Doctor Who nerd, so I like the stuff like Wild Blue Yonder a bit more. However, I think it served its purpose, and I thought it was really enjoyable. I think he has made one of the most confident debuts as a Doctor I have ever seen. I'm totally on board from the off. I think he has, I mean, I think that's helped by the end of The Giggle, where he's in it for the final 20, 25 minutes. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. I thought the new companion's really good, Ruby Sunday, I think. Yeah.
But most important of all, though, why aren't we talking about Davina McCall?
Well, that's what I mean about hokey Christmas specials. It's like, what's that line? Like, you're welcome, Davina McCall.
You're so welcome, Davina McCall.
That's so Russell T Davies. Like, he loves taking these people from like popular culture, these like daytime TV presenters, and he just loves putting them right front and center in Doctor Who.
But all I love is that because this is expanded so much into obviously the world now, and particularly America with Disney Plus, there are going to be so many Americans going, who the fuck is Davina McCall, and why is it such a one-liner? Why is it so popular?
I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed that Davina McCall wasn't the villain. I thought that's the way they were going down with it, and then she's kind of just there for a gag, and I was like, yeah, fair enough. Although one member of my family did at one point, when it figured out that Ncuti saved her from the Christmas tree, was like, oh, shame. Which going back to what you were saying, Mike, about like hokey Christmas specials where it's for everyone, I was like, yeah, but I was like, yeah, Davina McCall and a Christmas tree. That's what you want. That's what 13.2 million people want. I really liked it. I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was really good for Ncuti. I think he comes across very charming in it, very confident. It's quite nice to see a Doctor that's not socially awkward. We've had a couple in a row. Jodie was socially awkward. I remember like Peter Capaldi on his first couple of episodes was using like cues. Do you know, they like were passing him cues and he'd be like, I'm reading this. And Matt Smith kind of had the sort of dorky element to him. So Tennant's been the last kind of confident Doctor. So I think it's quite nice that they're going with a different energy, where this is a Doctor who's like, no, I'm confident and a little bit rude, a little bit sassy. I quite like that. Like, I think it was the scene with the policeman where he was like, yeah, whatever. Do you know, like he just kind of brushed him off at one, and then kind of went back but I think that there's room for sort of character development there, where it's kind of like he's a little bit raw, he's a little bit impatient, but I think that's good. I don't think the Doctor should just be, yeah, great. Do you know what I mean? Like really nice, really warm, basically a Jesus figure. Like I think it's good that they have a little bit of spikiness or edginess
they've
to
done
them.
that so much. They've done it over and over again now. The Doctor is always this mysterious, charismatic figure that's, you know, doesn't really get involved in like human interaction. But then from the off, they've set a whole new precedent for this series, because he's partying away in the club, you know, and he's like dancing and he's really like joyous, and I think it's going to be a very different Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think they're giving it a real element of like, and he's an inventor as well. Like the language, I speak the language of rope and the gloves, which I personally felt the gloves were a little bit too overpowered. Personally, it did feel a little bit like, hey, this is the WHOniverse, and we've taken one from the Marvel universe, and our Doctor's basically Tony Stark, which I thought was a little bit OP, but like
He's a genius. Why doesn't he have more gadgets?
But that's what I mean. It was nice to see that this one's sort of an inventor. They've already introduced the concept that this Doctor like invents stuff and like does that. So I think that's good. I think they're pushing it into new realms, which I think they needed to, which is cool.
Yeah, I think it's What were your overall thoughts, Dan?
I thought it was just a breath of fresh air. I mean, like you said, you were going into it expecting that kind of dorky, very socially uncomfortable Doctor. He's getting used to his own skin, his appearance, and everything's fresh, and he's trying to sort of navigate the world again. But to kind of have a showman that right from the get-go is there living his best life in the middle of a nightclub, jumping out of the snowman's sort of head. Even a sonic screwdriver. I'm a massive fan of the new sonic screwdriver. It looks like a 90s TV remote, but I'm all for it. It needs to switch up at some point, and that is going to, into a whole other era.
I saw a comment online about how somebody said Adam Sandler wants his TV remote back.
That's brilliant.
But sorry to cut you off, that why didn't they keep the awesome 14th Doctor's sonic screwdriver with all of its sort of shield capabilities around? I thought it was so good.
Unless that is a sort of knock-on effect of the bi-generations that the Doctor kind of took. He got obviously the hammer, bang, new guitars, and everything kind of split from that maybe. But yeah, I think if there's one thing I'd be slightly critical of, I would have loved to explore the kind of goblins thing a little bit more. I feel like it was a bit too rushed. I know it's a lot to kind of cover within an hour, and it's like the introduction to everything. But if Doctor is going to go down more of the fantasy route, which Studios has already alluded to, it would have been nicer to see a little bit more of the goblins, whether or not it was a bit more to it. I don't know. It just felt like it was there to kind of.
That's an age-old Doctor Who problem, isn't it? They need to make these episodes longer. Make them an hour and a half, for goodness sake.
I mean, it's clear that the audience is there, and to stick an extra 10 or 15 minutes on, people aren't going to be kicking off for more Doctor Who or because of more Doctor Who. But I think aside from that, I think it's a whole brave new world for Doctor Who. And I think now, because they've really pushed the boat out and, you've really already explored this kind of sort of adopted kind of, these two loners now kind of going into it together. It's going to be very exciting to see where it goes. I've not actually seen. I don't know if you guys have watched like the sort of teaser for the new series. I've not actually seen any of that yet.
Good. I think it strikes a really good balance of not giving too much away, but being a really good trailer.
And when's it starting? Have you got a start date?
May, I think.
May. Okay.
It's mad as well because Mike's actually in the new season. He's
in
season 1.
What stupid fucking joke is this?
Honestly, no joke. I just wanted to congratulate you on appearing in the first season because
you think as we've seen,
they do go to Abbey Road. They go to Abbey Road Studios, and I'm just wondering if me and Dan were to tag along, like, which one of us is playing Ringo or George or Paul. It's one of those really where we have to decide.
He was just trying to shoehorn his impression in.
He did.
Coincidentally, you're in the new series of Doctor Who as a big pile of Stephen dog shit on you. I think the Doctor sampled some dog shit at one point. It was in the trailer. It was in the trailer.
I'll take it. Anything for the credit. Anything for the credit.
It's been a slow year.
It's been a slow year. You take what you can get at the moment. It does look good. It does look good. The teaser, but I think there's less episodes than usual. I think it's only 8, whereas normally it's been like 10 or 12. But I imagine there'll be it's Disney money, isn't it? I was going to say on the goblins, they very kind of lightly sketched villain, but like they're going to make a great plush toy for Disney.
They also nearly got a Christmas #1. Did you see
Yeah.
how fast that rocked at the iTunes
So
charts in the back
I
of the day?
think we need to come on to this point, because I think this has been a big talking point in just the news in Doctor Who. What did you guys make of it? And also, like, we got to not just the goblins, like the Doctor and his companion being involved in that, because that hadn't been shared on like initial stuff. So what did you guys think?
Very cheesy. Very, very cheesy. Yeah,
This is Christmas Day, isn't it?
It's like Christmas Day. It's camp. It doesn't take itself serious. I mean, the song in itself is very creepy and very well produced for like a Daft Doctor Who song. It's actually, it's got quite a good beat to it. Yeah, I think right from the get go, it's all going to be. It's a whole new era of Doctor Who. So I'm just there going, yeah, this is absolutely.
Do the goblins actually speak English at any point, or do they just break out into this perfectly English language Christmas song? Do they actually have any lines?
Yeah, there were a few little.
I don't think
mutterings.
so.
Within the song,
with it. I would have loved it for like their goblin song to be like have a catchy melody, but have like a completely made up language. Because I'm like. I like goblins. It kind of, I don't know. I've always had this problem with Doctor Who. They really like humanize their villains. Like they speak the language. I know it's the TARDIS translating and all that, but
yeah. Oh, that's always the getaway card, isn't it? It's the TARDIS Matrix translating it.
But you have all that kind of build up to it, and then eventually it gets pierced through the heart, like the sort of reverse of Hot Fuzz, kind of with like the spire going through the alien, and then it just evaporates into nothing, and then life goes on. You just think.
It was. Okay. Look, I think it was cheesy. It was a bit of fun. I think it's not going to be universally liked. I think that's fair, but you know, it kind of served a purpose. I think, and I think it led into like the idea of fantasy and what Russell was saying, like coincidence, like kind of the element, or they gain their power through coincidence, which is why they're trying to encourage accidents. Like that's an interesting concept. That it would have been nice to have seen more of that, or
it's
kind
a very
of like
good
why
Doctor
that
Who
works.
concept. It's a really good Doctor Who concept.
Which was interesting, which leads on to something I want to talk about in a minute, but I'll just finish the point on in the goblins, because there's actually someone I work with called Piers.
Is a goblin.
Is a goblin. That was beautiful, boys. Called Piers. Shout out to Piers at John Hansard Gallery, because I know I'm going to send him the link to this one. He's going to watch it, boys, just to let you know. But he said he hated it. We were talking about it today, where he absolutely hated it. Like the music, the musicality aspect, and I kind of see it like it did feel a little bit like. Did you think it was just a bit like show offy for show offy's sake? Like, because don't get me wrong, Ncuti Gatwa can sing, and so can Millie Gibson by the look of it, and that's not the issue. It's just a bit like, I don't know. Like, I didn't hate it. I can't say, but I think that it has annoyed. I think it's like I said, it's not universally liked, but
I've got a theory about it. I think it's very Disney, isn't it? Surely Disney. I think the goblins, Russell T Davies has confirmed this, are kind of the first step after the toy maker of his legions, like these kind of like sly step towards fantasy is what he described it, where like you've got more like fantastical creatures. We know in the new series there's a character called Jinx Monsoon. We get a flash of her in the trailer, Dan, where she seems to appear in the Beatles episode, and she's got like some sort of musical sort of neck thing on with like a bunch of musical notes. So I think she's probably the musical equivalent of the toy maker, who's like the playful game. Like I think that's probably what's going on. So I think we're going to get a lot more music. I just want it in the proper series to be a lot more interwoven into the plot. I think I want it to be.
It's not just sticking out like a sore thumb.
I mean, because I find it funny. I do enjoy it. I love what Ruby says when she's climbing through the rope vents, where she says, "Is that a band?" And they just started playing music. I think that's really good. I just thought it was. I think Russell T Davies's idea was that they communicate in large part through song. I don't know if any of you guys saw the recent Marvels film, the Captain Marvel sequel.
No.
Are you
Do
ever
they
going to see
communicate
it?
through song?
There's a planet that communicates through song, and it is horribly done because it's not baked in enough. It's just like a musical number that comes out of nowhere, and it's a bit fickle. Felt like this was pretty much the same thing. I felt like they could have gone further.
Yeah. I think it's a good place to explore. Like, it's never really been done in Doctor Who. Do you know what I mean? I think like, why not? Like it, but again, I agree. I think it's the execution is really going to determine the future of it. If it goes horribly, I don't think we'll see it again. Do you know what I mean? I think this is the season. I don't know, like they're currently filming season 2, but I feel like I'm always for them trying. Do you know what I mean? Pushing new angles, and I feel like you've got to have an element of cheese, like. Yeah, like it's always had that, but yeah, we'll see. But to be fair, they can sing. Like I was like, that was very, 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 very strong performance.
They both can sing, yeah, 100%.
It suit, and to be fair, it suited Ncuti's Doctor. Like if it had been like Matt Smith or Christopher Eccleston, I'd have been like, what is going on? Do you know what I mean? But I felt like it. I think, and especially doing it in the first episode of his properly. Really kind of sets a precedent for this could be a normal thing rather than it just being completely Wild Blue Yonder.
If Christopher Eccleston hadn't have rage quit in the first series of the new Doctor Who, he would have rage quit when he saw the script for this Christmas episode.
He tap danced his way right out that door.
Straight on to Strictly Come Dancing.
Imagine if Russell Crowe had been the Doctor. So yeah, go on, Mike. What were you going to say?
Just saying the word. You go.
Well, no, I was just going to link I was saying this to you guys before, but I didn't like fully go into it. There's been a lot of talk about coincidence because that's been the big thing of this this episode. Sorry, and a lot of people. So I have my own theory, which I know I've shared with Mike, which we can go into after. But what has come out today, which I thought was an interesting theory, and I can see where the logic is. I don't know if I agree with it though. Dan, Mrs. Flood, before I get onto my theory, thoughts? Very interesting mid-credit scene.
I'm interested. Dan, did you see the mid-credit scene? That's not a joke. There's a mid-credit scene. Well, we know he had to restrict. He hasn't seen the mid-credit scene 100%. There's a mid-credit scene.
Right, Dan. There was a character in the episode called Mrs. Flood.
The next door neighbour.
She was the nosy neighbour. Yeah, he was getting really annoyed at the TARDIS being parked outside her front gate.
Right, I'm gonna have to. I'm right. Sorry.
Just for the audio.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan. Mute
her. I'll mute you. Hang on.
Jerome and I will carry on talking, and you rejoin once you've seen it to give us your thoughts. But we'll talk about the Mrs. Flood thing.
Okay. And 1 second, everybody.
So, what's your theory, Jerome?
So, do you want my theory or the theory I heard today?
I want both. Actually, I want your theory, then I'll say my theory, and then we'll get the theory that came out today. Yeah? Actually, that won't happen, because probably part way through me doing my theory, Dan's going to unmute himself.
For the audio viewers, Dan is currently intently looking at his phone, trying to find the mid-credit scene. His eyes are going mysteriously to the left as well. I don't know what notification he's had come up.
What a true Doctor Who fan. He's probably got The Walking Dead on another screen.
Okay, so my theory. I think Mrs. Flood is Susan. I think this links into a few things. One thing I think makes it stronger was your point the other day where Russell tweeted a couple of months ago going, oh, like, whatever happened to her and things. And I feel like you don't just put that unless there's something down the line, something down the pipeline. I think that... Do you want me to keep going, or should we ask Dan first since he's come back?
All right, let's get Dan's thoughts on the whole Mrs. Flood thing.
First of all, we've never had a post-credit or mid-credits like scene in Doctor Who, have we?
Very Marvel. Very Marvel,
very Disney. Strike number one. Number two... So, is she part of the Doctor's past? She must be.
Who knows?
And if so, where?
Who knows?
Has there been any reference of Mrs. Flood or something like that in the past in Doctor Who, Jerome?
Not that I'm aware of.
This is a completely new concept.
Or character, at least, yeah. It was interesting because very much the first half of the episode just seemed like a character, and I was like, oh, it's nice, Anita Dobson getting a show in Doctor Who. I was like, nice little bit of money for her agent. But then, like, towards the second half of the episode, it became very apparent that there was more to this character, which definitely wasn't given away.
What's she doing sitting out in the cold all the time?
Yeah. And that's it. That was before the mid-credits scene. We were like, why are they making such a thing of watching her watch Millie, or Ruby, sorry. And I was like, it's interesting. And then the mid-credits scene happened. And Dan, well, I'll say this, and then Mike says here, so Dan can have a little bit of time to kind of craft his own theory. But my theory was, I think it's possibly going to be a version of a regeneration version, perhaps, or whatever, of Susan, who was the first Doctor's granddaughter. There's a few reasons for this. I think, in terms of never seeing a TARDIS before, the fact that this character is in London, kind of abandoned, we have no idea of their history, but also the fact that, as me and Mike were saying, Russell has referenced Susan, kind of whatever happened to her, like what's going on. It fits the age kind of profile. Then, like, Anita Dobson's a well-known figure, so it kind of makes sense that it would be someone with some stout or clout to them. I just think, like, it's definitely, I might do a little bit of research into it, see what's, if there's any kind of links there, because it just feels potentially right. It just feels like there could be something. And also, like, never seen a TARDIS before. That suggests to me either they're a Time Lord in order to, like, recognize a Type 40 TARDIS, either they've traveled with the Doctor before, which is why they recognize said TARDIS, or they can't be human, at the very least, I don't think. Oh, no, that's not true. They could be human, but they have to have had some time-traveling experience. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's got to be something. Anyway, Mike, what do you think?
So I also think that she is Susan. I think it for all of the same reasons, but also the additional reasons that they are obviously pushing this thing that the Doctor and Ruby are both orphans and don't know where they're from. And I think the Susan thing, I mean, I don't know much of the Susan story in the expanded media, but she is somebody who we've never actually met her parents. She was always kind of adopted by the Doctor. She has also, in a sense, been left on Earth, I think, and she chose to, but the Doctor said he'd come back and he never did.
Yeah, she's also the original companion. She is the OG, and also I think it's, so from what I remember, I think the first ever episode is an unearthly child, which is in reference to Susan. It's meant to be her. And then the very last episode, not Hartnell's last episode, but the last episode with Susan, she basically decides that she wants to, like, live a normal life with this human called Ian. I think it might be Ian. And also there was a character in, like, the last Jodie Whittaker special, who I believe was Ian Chesterton. It was the original actor in, like, his 97, 98. So there's all these links that really make sense that they're referring back to these times. And I was like, it makes sense that there would be some sort of collaboration. But basically, like, the Doctor realizes that Susan's future lies on Earth, and he dematerializes without allowing her to come back on board. And he does this whole, like, monologue to her where it's like, you go and live your life. He was like, this is like the start of a massive adventure for you. And given the 14th Doctor's now doing the same thing, that's the whole thing of, like, I'm going to live this life. I think there's a lot that makes sense for the Susan arc to potentially work.
Here's the thing, isn't it a really famous line that William Hartnell says, "I'll come back" or whatever, and he never actually did.
I need to double check that, but yeah, possibly.
So I think that plays into the whole new storyline of them being, like, orphans or kind of abandoned. I think it's perfect. But
it would be interesting. Sorry, the only thing I was going to say is it might be interesting if, you know how, like, in the series 3 or 4, the 10th Doctor uses the chameleon, the watch, and I'm wondering whether that's a similar thing with Susan, perhaps, because I feel like, because of the relation and because of the Time Lord, like, the Doctor would have sensed it. He would have sensed something, and I feel like
it's sci-fi, though, isn't it? I think he's been in the presence of the Master before without sensing.
Yeah, possibly. But that's what I mean. Like maybe there's some sort of disguise element going on here. My other theory was Romana, but I don't think that's got as much strength as the Susan one.
So I don't know if either of you two have read the Radio Times column that's been put out as a result of that episode and that scene. But they've sort of put together one or two potential rumours or ideas.
Yeah.
So one theory is that she's an associate of the Masters. In the 3rd anniversary special, The Giggle, we saw a woman with red nail polish pick up the toy maker's gold tooth, the one that the Master was trapped in. However, I've just watched it back and there's no red nail polish on there. So I think that pretty much pulls that one apart. So the Doctor and the Master aren't the only beings who have TARDISes, though. And after the toy makers return the Giggle, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that another classic character could return. Perhaps the Monk, the meddling time traveller who first appeared in 1965. After all, the Monk had a TARDIS of their own too. Could Mrs. Flood potentially be something to do with them?
Yeah, I think there's a few other things that play into this. I think that house, Mrs. Flood's house, is a TARDIS, 100%, and I also think that Mrs. Flood is the toy maker's the one who waits. And I also think Mrs. Flood is the person who leaves Ruby on the church door, because I saw a comment online which was so good, which is like, what a way to watch somebody grow up from a distance. Make yourself the next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
That's good.
Now you've mentioned the house potentially being a TARDIS, I've just got to quickly show this on the screen. Right, so this bit now, I think when he looks up, if this gets you copyrighted, I'm sorry. There's a bit in a minute where he looks up and he sees 2 windows and a bright light above them. Should be any second now. 2 white windows and a light above it. Is that? I could be really pulling here. 2 bright windows and a bright light above. Is that a reference to a TARDIS? Because the sun, and you've got obviously the white windows.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
boys, unfortunately, we've been demonetized. All of our money's gone. We've just been smacked by copyright law.
Done.
That all 16p we've earned ruined.
Done.
Disney.
It's a shame that this point of the podcast won't ever be released. But if we were going to make a point,
we'll just mute from here.
I feel like it could be a TARDIS. Of course, it could. Like anything's been a TARDIS. We've seen a couple of examples. Like obviously there was that Clara one where she leaves with I can't even remember the character's name, but what's her name from Game of Thrones played her.
Dan won't have seen
Isilda.
it. Yeah.
Is it Isilda? Yeah. On its Dan, a lot's happened.
I need to see some
but so we've seen examples of other TARDISes. Sorry, that's a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah. And I think there was one classic one. The Master had like a grandfather clock in one of the classic episodes, which turned out to be a TARDIS, which was hilarious. But like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think obviously we're gonna see this character again. We're gonna see this character in season 1. I will put money on it. Whether that's at the end of season 1, whether it's in the middle, we're going to see this character again. I think there's no doubt. You don't just bring in someone like Anita Dobson as well, just to go, here's a mid-credit scene, never see you again. Like, I feel like it's money's nailed on. The other theory I heard, which is interesting, I don't know how much I think it's true, but it's interesting, was I think Den of Geek put out a theory that she might actually be a much older version of River Song, that has actually come from the trapped element in Silence in the Library, whereby, because they're saying it's a little bit flaky, but they're saying River Song, Melody Pond, Mrs. Flood, they're all water based. They're all kind of like mysterious element, and I feel like you can't rule it out. I don't think you can rule anything out at this point, because there's all you can join all sorts of things together. I don't know how much I would follow that one at the moment, but
I don't know how exciting that is as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Well, no. The only thing they said, which I thought, okay, maybe there's a bit of credence, is the whole episode was to do with coincidence. and that is a mighty coincidence. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. There's potential legs on that, but we'll have to see. But you can see all of the theories flying around the internet. Like, this character's like, everyone's obsessed with this character already.
I mean, I know we've joked about it in the past, and Peter Kay did play a very pivotal character within the history, the beautiful, elaborate history of Doctor Who. Could it be Ursula stepped back out of the paving slab and now lived her life? And again, the paving slab was a metaphor for coincidence.
What a mighty letdown that would be.
I watched a compilation video recently, which was like the top 10, the top 10 worst kind of like fates to receive that are worse than death in Doctor Who. And I think that was like number 3. Was like,
oh my god,
being turned into a stone slab. I
wanted to talk to you both about this in the giggle. Actually, a moment that I keep coming back to because something about me finds it absolutely horrifying is when the toy maker, when those 2 unit soldiers charge it and he turns them into balloons, and you get the screaming face of that poor unit soldier who's like in the balloon. I keep watching it and I keep thinking that scene's brilliant because it's got this joyous song and it's this big dance, but some really horrible things happen in it. He spins Kate at the wall and he turns those soldiers into balloons. It's crazy.
That was quite.
I don't know what you just reminded me of it. I was like, that's a fate. What happened? So when the toy maker was like cancelled from this domain, did those soldiers come back? Like what?
No, I guess not, because like
that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's still permanent, isn't it? It's
Mel popped the balloon before. So.
Oh, and Mel's coming back. That's what I'm gonna say. Dan, you haven't seen the teaser yet, and it's not really a spoiler because it's only a very, very brief moment.
Try quickly watch the teaser as well.
Watch the teaser, Dan.
All right.
Stop teasing us, Dan.
Constantly feeling left out of these conversations. It's my own fault.
But yeah, I think there's some interesting kind of footage.
I hope you're planning on muting yourself, Dan.
So they want to split the bank up. Oh shit! Right, back in it.
See, I'm not the only one who does impressions. I'm just the only one out of the 2 of us that does them well. Anyway, burn. What was it? Were there any elements of this episode you didn't like?
Yeah, the singing. No, I don't like big hokey like the Doctor Who. Like, I thought the bits of it I loved the most were the bits that were setting up the future series because I know how good it's going to be. I thought we'll talk about this a bit with Dan as well because I think I loved all the stuff. I loved how they introduced Millie Gibson's character, Ruby Sunday. I thought Ruby's a really good character. I thought her family already feel really fleshed out. I think she's going to be really, really pivotal. And she seems like a really good actress. I don't know much of her stuff. I know she was in Coronation Street, but I think it's going to be really. It felt very Rose, didn't it? Like a kind of. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because aesthetically she reminds me of Billie Piper a little bit, but yeah.
Do we think that was Rose Noble at the end of the teaser?
Oh yeah.
There was a scene where he was hugging a character. It looked like it was Rose Noble.
Mm.
I think she'll definitely be coming back at some point. I liked the episode. I thought it was good. I thought it was cheesy and emotional in kind of equal amounts. There were a couple of things that annoyed me. Some of the camera shots were really weird. Was I the only person who thought that?
Oh, which ones?
There were just some like very strange kind of close-ups at points and bits where I thought there were like just some really interestingly chosen kind of shots that were either panning or kind of following characters into, and but they just seem to come at really weird intervals, weird times. I just thought as a directorial, it was just, it kind of threw me out of place a little bit at points. I find it kind of hard to follow. And also, I was talking with Piers again, and we were saying, like, when I was watching it with my family,
Here's Morgan.
we were Piers and I, Mr. Morgan, he was saying, no, that's horrible, he's a much lovelier person than Piers Morgan. We were saying, though, that it's like we couldn't always hear what every character was saying. We couldn't always hear what every character was saying.
Did you have the volume turned up?
Oh, I was on mute. There we go. No, but like I think there was just some, like, there were certain scenes where, I don't know, maybe it's just like there's this new kind of thing with a lot of actors where it's kind of the Marvel thing, isn't it? Where it's like, I'm going to be really deep and emotional and gruff.
It's the mumble.
And I just feel like the mumble was a bit evident in different places, but it's all technical stuff. Like, as an episode, I enjoyed it, and that's the main thing.
Yeah. I'm excited where it goes. I've never really liked the Christmas specials unless they were the Christmas specials that were like a bit more out there, like The End of Time, which serves as David Tennant's final episode. We say that David Tennant's obviously going to be in Doctor Who to the end of his life. They're going to wheel him out for every anniversary. So,
literally End of Time.
But yeah, I thought it was really good. I'm really excited for where it's going in May.
Do you think, last thing I've got on spin-offs, do you think that they recast like all of the Doctors who are no longer with us and bring them back in future spin-offs and future
I think they should. Yeah,
because they've done
a job with David Bradley.
Yeah, I mean, he does a really good job as Hartnell, and I feel like it would be really interesting to see, like, because Patrick Troughton was like, for a lot of people, they like loved him. He was a generational Doctor, and obviously he had like the flute and stuff, and there were like really real quirks to him and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see if like they would maybe, because I think in An Adventure in Space and Time, I can't remember the name of the actor. He does a lot of work with Mark Gatiss and Steve Pemberton and
Inside Number 9.
Rhys Shearsmith. I think Rhys Shearsmith played him in that small appearance, and it would be interesting to see like whether they ever followed that up like they did David Bradley. Don't know.
Jerome's angling for a job.
Always.
No, I think they should. I think, like we were talking about before, I think these spin-offs should be, sparsely, like it should be a sparse thing, but you should have other Doctors in the... I'd love to see Matt Smith's 11th Doctor back in like a 6-part event series. But I'd love that. I think that would be so cool. Paul McGann is another really good actor who you could bring back for just like something that runs adjacent to the main series. And do you remember back in the day, Russell T Davies' first era, having Torchwood crossover with Doctor Who, like, the end of that first series of Torchwood where Jack hears the TARDIS, runs off, and then he appears in that episode of Doctor Who. Like, I just, honestly, that was pre-Marvel, it was pre any of it, and it was absolutely brilliant. So they have to do stuff like that again. 100%.
You know what I really want to see? I want to see Tales of the TARDIS with Chris Eccleston. Because something tells me that's going to be explosive.
I was convinced he was coming back for these specials, and
I know.
Sack Russell T Davies, sack Phil Collinson, sack Jake Tranter, sack Julie Gardner.
They just went to him before he went on at Comic-Con. They were like, there's this big fan of yours who lives in Taunton, and his name's Michael, and he's really hoping you'll come back for the 60th anniversary. And he was like, right, we'll put a stop to that right now. Get me up on that stage.
He won't stop sending letters. He's obsessed.
Also, what he said was bullshit anyway, because Stephen Moffat, for the 50th anniversary, approached Christopher Eccleston and said, come back. None of those people were working on Doctor Who anymore anyway. Stephen Moffat was in charge. And he turned it down because he thought the script wasn't good enough, which was bullshit because the script was excellent.
Which was really interesting as well, because his favorite episode, I believe, in his season was the Doctor Dances and the thing, which is a Stephen Moffat two-parter. So actually, it was an opportunity to go with his preferred Doctor Who writer. But you know what? I think sometimes maybe it's a coincidence, but sometimes I think things are just not meant to be, and so it's a shame. It's a shame because like he is part of he'll always be a part of Doctor Who lore.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he's ever going to come back. And you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Like I think it's nice. The universe is big enough to kind of not have any more of him. And to be fair, he still does. He does the audio novels. Like it's not like he's completely. Do you know what I mean? Gone. Like he still does have a thing.
He is top of my list in terms of if you want a Tom Baker style level of surprise, like the 50th anniversary, it's Christopher Eccleston. One day in the future, there has to be a cameo. There has to be a TV cameo. It would blow our minds.
And you could kind of argue now
100th anniversary.
Well, now you've got the Disney Plus side of things. It's not technically all the BBC's doing now, so they could sweeten the deal by getting him in that way.
And if I know anything about Chris Eccleston, and I don't, it's that he would.
Really, I thought you camped outside his house.
Yeah, if there's something that he loves more than anything, it's Disney.
He just loves The Little Mermaid, doesn't he? He's such a sucker for princesses. Classic Eccleston.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the church on Ruby Road is, again, something I really admire of Russell T Davies's writing is he hasn't abandoned the flux and the timeless child, and he's really going with it. Obviously, like the next series, you know, part of it is going to be Ruby's an orphan. There's a bit of mystery around her character, who dropped her off at that church. Shit, I'm regenerating. And the Doctor obviously doesn't know where he's from, so I think that they're really, really pushing that, and that's good. So I think what we should do with our podcast until May is that one of the first things that we should do is, Dan, we need to get you to watch the 2-part finale of it's series 12, Jerome, where they expand the timeless child thing, where that happens properly.
I don't know. I wiped my memory, like every Doctor.
Please, if give me a list of episodes to watch.
Yeah,
the
it
next
is. It is. It's
For the next
one. Yeah.
Well, for the next one, I think we should all go back and watch the 2-part finale to series 12. I think it's called The Timeless Children. And I can't remember it's Jodie Whittaker. It's Jodie Whittaker, and it's where they outline this whole new lore to Doctor Who, which now they are carrying on with. I think that is what we need to watch. And then we need to all watch Flux again.
I mean, it makes more sense that they're going into a fantasy realm with the new lore, because they've broken so many sci-fi rules that I think it probably makes more sense.
There aren't any sci-fi rules. Sci-fi is
no. But I think
I hate you, Jerome, and I hate your friend Piers.
Keep Piers.
Look, we've talked about the Flux too much. No, we've talked about the Flux. I agree. I think it's good that Russell's not ignoring it, because otherwise it would be one of those annoying YouTube videos where it was like, this thing happened, whatever happened to this? Like, let's try and pretend this wasn't a plot idea gone wrong and that it got silenced for a reason. Like, I'm glad they're rolling with it and trying to make something of it, because I think to ignore it would just be really annoying as well. I just wish it had never happened. No, but
I just wish it never happened and they ignored it all.
I think it'll be. It's interesting to see where it goes. And I think the orphan aspect is a strong. I think keep it simple. Like, focus on that element, like and also, like, so many Doctor Who series have been successful or unsuccessful, in my opinion, depending on the relationship between the Doctor and the lead companion. That bond is so strong because you see almost every series through the eyes of the companion. And I feel like they've got off on a good foot, like Ncuti and Millie. And I feel like that will really It'll fuse it. For the audio listeners, Mike's fusing his hands together, and Dan's doing a similar thing.
What?
But what?
Dan's checking his fucking emails.
I'm just trying to catch them on all the Doctor Who I've missed.
But yeah,
tweet.
I think we should go back and watch a few episodes. To be fair, from I think we should all come up with some classics to go back to. But since it's Christmas, I feel like we have to focus on this. We talked a bit about it in the WhatsApp group. Best Christmas specials, worst Christmas specials, Christmas special moments that stick in your mind. I'm going to start with you, Mike. For the audio listeners, Mike's thinking.
Right. Worst Christmas special, in my opinion, is the Doctor, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I think it's called. I think that was, you can quote me on this, fucking dreadful. I also thought the return of Dr. Mysterio was a pile of shit. And although, did I hate that? I think we need to rewatch some of these, so I'm being hopelessly unfair.
Do you know how much? Sorry, yeah, go on, finish your point.
And I was gonna say my favorite ones, like I said before, they're the ones that tie into like the wider lore. I think, right? You know, the end of time, I think is brilliant. Actually, the best Christmas special by far is Matt Smith's first Christmas. Is it Christmas Carol? What an episode! It's the one with who's the actor that recently died?
Michael Gambon.
Yeah. What an episode! That again,
reveal,
Stephen Moffat at the peak of his powers.
That reveal, where he gets him as the Scrooge figure to turn round, and he sees himself as a young boy, is such a good. That's such a good moment. Like they executed that so well, so well. Like I was a big fan of that. I'll tell you what. When I was texting you boys on WhatsApp about this, like best and worst, I was going through the list of Christmas specials since 2005. I completely had blanked Doctor Mysterio from my mind. So when I was reading it and going over it, I was like, "Oh my god, I remember that garbage." But I had a proper shock and surprise moment. I was like, "Oh my god, that existed. That was the thing."
We need to rewatch it because I've got this little thing in my head that I'm kind of like, did I enjoy it at the time? Like, am I just being like,
oh, no.
I think the concept of Doctor Who and superheroes I just don't like. We need to.
That was before Disney money came in. That was Doctor Who going, "Hey, guess what? Marvel's big at the moment. We're going to do a Marvel Christmas special." And sorry, I just did not enjoy that at all. But I think my favorite one was I enjoyed Time of the Doctor. It didn't really feel like a Christmas special because it was building into the whole arc of everything else, but it was the episode where Matt Smith finally regenerates into Capaldi and it's Trenzalore, and it was just a great episode, and it was at Christmas and it's in snow and it still had Christmas themes.
Peter Capaldi's, is it Last Christmas, the one with Santa Claus? Sounds gimmicky, but it's actually very good.
With the alien, it's got like the whole the cracking out of the eggs, doesn't it? It's got like a lot of alien scenes in it. Yeah. That was good. That was
so let's hear Dan's thoughts on his favorite Christmas specials from the Russell T Davies era, because that's the only era he's watched.
Thank you. Well, nerds, I would have to go with David Tennant's first outing, mainly because there's a Christmas tree attacking people.
The Christmas invasion.
A Christmas invasion, and the fact that he loses an arm and then grows it back.
Yeah.
With a sword fight in the clouds on top of London.
And where does his chopped off hand next appear, Dan?
It appears. I can't remember the exact episode, but it appears in.
Bit of trivia.
But does it appear in the TARDIS?
I think the next time it appears is in Torchwood. What's your next favourite David Tennant Christmas special?
Voyage of the Damned. Because it's just a disaster movie, isn't it? Of epic proportions. Kylie Minogue's in it.
Wilf gets first introduced.
Wilf's first introduction as well. Yes, absolutely. Those are the two from that era that stand out to me the most. I remember them being particularly moved by those episodes as a child. Yeah, I was a very mature child.
No love for the runaway bride.
I mean, what if she had fallen out? It was a strong chance that she could have hit the deck and been
That's a great throwback, Dan. That
turned into Christmas jam on the roads of London. But yeah. There's more anyway.
For sure. And this, who's had the most Christmas specials? Is it Capaldi or Smith? Or is it Tennant? Don't know.
Tennant, I think.
Is it Tennant?
He had 4 seasons, didn't he? And
Capaldi had a few. Oh yeah, I know the specials do count. Yeah, it probably is Tennant.
Quite a few.
So you had no Christmas specials. Jodie Whittaker. They were all on New Year's.
Yeah, I was going to say the Dalek one and the What did you make of that one? I know it's New Year's, but technically
great. I thought the Chris Chibnall New Year's specials were like some of his best episodes.
Yeah. There was he gave us the new Dalek, didn't he? And then took them away.
Oh yeah.
He gave us the new Daleks, like the new kind of human Daleks, and then the original Daleks were like, "You guys aren't pure, fuck you," and then wiped them out.
No, wasn't that in?
Which, to be fair, having been based off the Nazis, is a very Nazi thing to do. So it was within character.
Jerome brings up the Nazis in every podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's every podcast bar one, Mike. Honestly, jeez.
It's still 25%.
Lower the mood. It probably is.
Those are some worrying odds. And on that note, Pierce, thank you for watching. Anyone else that did, appreciate it too.
Thanks, Mum.
So, is your mum watching?
No.
Do I slag her off as well, Mike?
Go on, Mike.
There.
Go on, Mike. I dare you. I don't dare
you're ready for some fun.
I won't be slagging off anyone's mums.
Are we doing scores on the doors?
Scores on the doors.
Oh yeah, we forgot to do that. Yes.
Dan nearly forgot to watch the fucking episode.
Dan almost forgot to join the podcast.
Mike nearly forgot to leave the Beatles.
Jerome's a piece of shit.
In New York.
Woo! I love a shout out. Right, let's start with Dr. Mysterio himself, Dan. What score are you giving
Before
this?
you do, Dan, Dan, you have to tell us what the plot of Dr. Mysterio is and what Dr. Mysterio is.
Also,
that's your homework. You have to now go and watch The Return of Dr. Mysterio for next week.
Deal. You just let me know where I can find it.
No, we're not doing it. We're watching. Don't listen to Jerome. This is my podcast. Our podcast.
Thank you.
Well,
here's his podcast.
It's all gonna be left to you, Pierce. We'll be dead and buried, and it'll be yours.
Dead, buried.
Why are you saying Pierce? His name's Pierce.
That was the same thing.
Yeah,
it's not exactly the same.
It's not. It's his name. You're talking about what Razor does in an episode of Robot Wars. Wow, that was an absolute nostalgic throwback.
Scores, Michael. What did you make of the Christmas episode?
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Jeromeo.
Yeah, 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 7.5.
What's the 0.5 for?
Because
he really enjoyed the post-credit scene. He hasn't seen it.
Because evidently it's the episode that keeps on giving. I finished watching it and it was a mini episode.
Have you seen the end credit scene? You've seen the mid-credit scene. You've seen the end credit scene.
Fuck off.
No, seriously. Did you see the prequel they put out? A bit like the Doctor's meditation in the Capaldi episode. They put out like a 6-minute prequel filler. Did you see that?
I'm just being dead air.
For the audio listeners, Dan is pulling a face that doesn't necessarily believe Mike and I.
I'm going to turn up 3 hours early for the next record. And
feel free. Like, what are you going to talk about?
I don't know. The perils of doing a podcast with you two mates.
in the next podcast, should we sing it?
Yeah. Why not?
Should we just do the next one in complete song?
I think we should.
Blank verse.
So maybe a band.
Whamageddon. Doctor Who version. Right, should we wrap it up there before we actually
Did we get
bore
yours
someone to
a
death?
good 20 minutes ago?
Did we get your score, Jerome?
Yeah, I gave it 7.
You gave it 7. You gave it 7. Yeah.
Oh, keep up, Mike!
Next podcast.
We'll be in 2024. So it'll be a New Year podcast.
Yeah, well, I guess now we've got no new episodes until May, so we have to decide what we want to do in terms of theories, classic episodes to watch. Things
Let's
to
leave it
debate.
up to the audience.
We haven't got one. We haven't got an audience.
Next to this podcast? Should we revisit a series? Pick out a certain Doctor, or should we just pack it in and quit while we're ahead? Choice is yours.
I know what
he's never going to share his Doctor Who theories with me again after this podcast.
We should
know where you live, Pierce.
We should go back.
Sack Pierce. Sack the BBC. Sack Russell T Davies.
We should go back series by series, and Jerome and I should pick our favourite episodes from that series, and we should all watch them ahead of the next episode that we record. So the next series that we would do would be Flux, wouldn't it? It would be Flux. It would, wouldn't it? Or would it be no? The problem is we can't do Flux. I don't think we can do Flux for Dan really without having watched the end part of the
Dan
series 12.
Realistically, what have you watched up to? Like, as in, like you know the story up until this point. What have you watched?
Like pre the specials.
Yeah. Like what do you confidently know up to?
The end of time pops it.
The last thing I confidently remember was Matt Smith waking up inside himself. Is that in his eye or something like that?
That wasn't
like he was shot by an astronaut.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the kind of far
so
away.
We're looking at the end of series 6. So pretty much from series 7. So you've got to go through Trenzalore.
Was that only
You've
series
got to go
6?
through.
Oh yeah.
That was the end of series 6. Yeah. You've got to do Trenzalore.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to do Clara. You got to do Bill Potts. You got to do Missy.
Oh, I know of Missy.
I don't know why that sounded so funny, but yeah. I think we choose a few episodes and we choose a few theories. We should make it like a Doctor Who club, whereby it revolves. So we all have to like choose an ep going round.
But so how are we going to do this? Are we doing it series by series from where Dan left off?
Yeah,
I think we should watch like not every episode in the series. Like Dan should just watch some on his own, but we could join him for a few.
You've just given Dan a lot of work there that you coincidentally don't have to do.
He asked for a lot of work, Mike. The moment he joined this podcast, he signed up for military service to Doctor Who. Did you see this in the contract?
No, I just saw that.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike, we are going to cut all of the last 10 minutes.
Mike, we can't put this online.
We can't put this online.
I don't do any editing. Last week, I had to go check if Sinead was okay because she was being really sick, and I just didn't edit any of that out. So, you know.
What should be?
Has she healed yet, Mike?
Yeah, she's much better. Yeah.
Did you make the
bruises? Has she healed?
Cancelled. We just got cancelled again. You bring up domestic abuse.
You started it on Sinead. You monster.
Honey, we've been cancelled again.
Yes!
I just like it to make it clear that if this doesn't get done for the edit, that none of us actually drank anything before this started the show. Well, Dan, did you drink anything? Because we know you weren't sober for your first watching.
Oh no, I'm just as pissed now as I was yesterday.
Oh, okay, cool.
As in,
fine.
he's pissed himself. Incontinent.
That's a coincidence. I did that yesterday as well.
I mean, we've covered urination, domestic abuse, Davina McCall's
Regeneration.
death, regeneration. What's not to like about this podcast?
I've got two things I don't like about this podcast. I'm just drawing them down. Right.
That's all right. Dan, we can just quit.
Yay! With our heads held
And we'll,
high.
and we'll see the smile taken off his face.
It's going to be Piers and I.
Piers, I don't know how you've done it. You've swung yourself a job, mate. Congratulations.
A
Right,
job.
so
Happy New
we-
Year, Hoovians!
All right. Yeah. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, audience. Happy New Year, Jerome. Happy New Year, Dan.
I'll see you on Abbey Road in May.
Oh,
Have a night off.
have a fucking night off, Jerome.
God.